Good morning. Welcome to New Gambia Media, where we provide you with up-to-date news, civic engagement, and community empowerment. Today, our topic is African Liberation Day, what it means to Africa. And today we don't have a guest, unfortunately, but I have my co-host, Sam Cisse, here with me. And Pamara will join us later. I am a host here, Momodu Sawan in New York. Welcome, Sam.
Thank you.
So Sam, we're gonna look at African Liberation Day celebration that we are having now. It started on May 25th. What does African liberation, what does it mean for Africa, and how far since the inception of this idea of African unity by Kwame Nkrumah and other leaders? How is it coming along? Are we gradually seeing what our previous leaders, what they prophesied, or is it that we're still experiencing hurdles and then there are more work need to be done to get to where we need to be? What is your thought on African Liberation Day and how the journey has been so far?
Well, thank you, Mr. Swanee. Thank you. Yeah, definitely. African Liberation Day is an important day, and it should mean a lot to all African countries. And this is something that was initiated back in the 1958, actually, when African countries that were independent or had their independence came together, about 8 or 9 of them, I'm not sure, I can't remember, came together and formed African Freedom Day. They call it African Freedom, and then African Liberation came into effect in May 25th of 1963, when this actually came into place. Now, it's an important event for all Africans to celebrate, but at the same time, it is something that our leaders should really look at as, okay, this should be beyond celebration. This is getting independence from the colonial rule, from our colonial powers. So when African countries get their independence, that means a lot. That means that's when you get your own sovereignty. That's when you become your own state. Now, what we do, or what our leaders did with our own state from the beginning coming to today, is different. You go to every African country, is different. I thought in my mind, African Liberation Day would be something when it was first put in place, the first leader should take it to the next level and continue to build it to the next level. And every leader that comes into power in any country in Africa should really be working hard on this to make sure that Africans come together. The colonial powers ruled us for some time, then we got our independence from them. Once they gave us our independence, we got our independence. We didn't take it to the next level. We didn't do what we're supposed to do. That's why Africa is still not united. By now, if things went right, by now Africa could have been United States of Africa. We would have had a United States of Africa, just like we have United States of America. So unfortunately, all of that didn't happen. Why? Because of so many reasons, so many factors that played. That include greedy leaders that don't, that are very selfish. They want to see themselves. They don't want to see the people. They don't want to see Africa. They want to look at themselves and being selfish for their own good. And of course, when you say United States of Africa, who is going to be the leader? Who's going to be the president? African people will have that fight as to who is going to be. Unless there is some kind of course, there is going to be some kind of elections to get to that level. This is part of the reason Africans are not organized, because by now, Africa should have had their own unity and become one Africa, and where they they can have inter, well, not, I won't say intercontinental, but interstate relationship, whereby there are certain things can be put in place. For example, just like if you come to the United States of America, you go to European Union, they have their citizens from one country can travel with the same document to another country without having to go apply for a visa, for example, things like that. Africa could have done the same thing. It may happen in some areas. I know Gambia and Senegal are neighbors. So we're neighbors where you can go with your Gambia's ID to Senegal. Senegal can come to Gambia easily. People can do that, but beyond that, and is a problem. I mean, if you want to go outside of Senegal, you want to go to Guinea, the Guineas, and go beyond that to Sierra Leone, to Ghana, and Nigeria. You need a visa for all of it. These are things that are unfortunate for Africans. We should have taken care of from the African Liberation Day, meaning all the African countries that were independent should have taken that to the next level, and leaders should work together and corroborate something that is good for Africa, not just for their countries. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. And then you look at part of the reason, like I said, there are several factors. Another factor here is corruption. Corruption kills Africa. Corruption is bad for every country, any country. And then taking that down to our own country, if you look at it, the impact is still there. Corruption, government after government, and corruption after corruption. People in power are there to have been there to really survive. And not only that, be there in their own interest, not in the interest of the country. They are not looking beyond. They are not looking or thinking outside the box. They are thinking what is good for them, what is good for them. And anything beyond that, they're not comfortable getting into that. So this is part of the reason African Liberation Day is good. It's good to celebrate, but we know the meaning of it, why it was put together, what was the goal and the mission behind this. Africa could have gone to the next level. Unfortunately, we're not there, and I don't see us getting there anytime soon.
Thank you, Sam. So I think you mentioned very important points here. Looking at Africa, we came far. Some countries have been liberated or have overcome colonialism over 50 years ago. You know, I think some Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're on now. Yep.
Okay, sorry. I mean, my internet today is not that great. So what I was saying is that some countries really have been liberated for over 50 years. And like you rightly said, African Liberation Day started in 1958 in Accra, where about 9 countries came together at that time that were liberated, and to form an ideology where, you know, this African liberation will be celebrated. And during the course, you know, right after that, other countries started to join. And today, I think we have about 54 countries that's part of the African Liberation Day that were all, you know, overcome colonialism. So it is a significant and important way to remember Africa, either by helping or by learning a costume about Africa and the rich culture, or it can also be celebrated by helping Africans. So that said, this is a significant moment for Africans to reflect. Can you hear me?
What you just said. Now I can, yes.
Yeah, this is a significant moment for us to reflect about what has transpired in terms of development, in terms of becoming more united in terms of, the vision of our, previous leaders, what they prophesize how Africa should be. So I think African Day should really be honored and be meaningful to our communities, to our African continent, by educating where we were before colonialization and how far we came, and what is it out there that we need to do to get to where we need to be. Because Africa is rich. Kwame Nkrumah rightly said this. Africa is rich. It's Africans that are poor. Africa is rich. It's Africans that are poor. And everyone in this planet believes the richness of Africa. Even Putin, the president of Russia, did speak about the richness of Africa. He said what Africa has can feed the whole world if they knew what Africa has. Africa can feed the whole world with what it has. I heard Putin said that. He also said Africa has two problems: leadership and culture. If we can come with a good leadership, that will bring prosperity, a leadership that will bring accountability, a leadership that will diffuse tribalism, a leadership that will generate economic wealth. Africa will be unique, and a leadership that can bring unity. But we lack in that. And we also lack in our culture. Instead of taking other cultures, we have the richest culture in the planet. Like history has already proven, man begins in Africa. And if you go back, way back, universities were in Timbuktu in Mali, way back. Civilization started in Africa. They went to Egypt and they found those people civilized already. They have their culture, they have their the way they rule, their leadership structure. So I kind of wonder whether we are exploiting this leadership, this culture that we have and the richness. And if you come to mineral resources, no doubt, the mineral resources are in Africa. Diamond, zinc, oil, rubber, even coffee, everything is in Africa. But we either ignorant about going and finding out how to make the best uses of this, or we are too lazy. It's something about us that we need to educate ourselves. We have all the natural gifts from the Almighty. So it's a matter of translating that to economic freedom, to education, to collaboration. So I think Africa needs to be beyond just talking. Talking is one thing, it's easy, but doing is difficult. Africa Unite, we have had Bob Marley, Jamaicans, propaganda for the unity of Africa, to expose African culture in music. Everything is there. We have had those support. Now it's our leaders to look into how we can have better leadership that could bring these realities into being. So I think that's where we are stuck right now. Yeah. Put aside division, tribalism. Put aside nepotism. Put our money in education, agriculture, feed ourselves, and empower our people instead of relying on Western support. Instead of taking loans and grants from West, devise a way how we can generate wealth to sponsor our own day-to-day operations. Have leaders that will do away from corruption. Try to love one another. If there's no love, it will be difficult to unite people. If we see ourselves as different, we will never collaborate or come together. So I think we need, to look inside ourselves and look at Africa as a whole. That's the reason. There's a reason why we have the United States of Africa. America. There's a reason for it. They look at themselves and say, togetherness would bring more power. They have the states level and they have the federal, whereby the federal, it is the central government, dictates, and the states are given certain responsibility and localities to manage so that they can be overseen and balance of power. So we need this kind of ideology implemented, but our leaders has to get up from their comfortable zone and look at a brighter future and started thinking outside the box. This is what Africa needs. Otherwise, generation after us will still be struggling financially, educationally, economically, and so forth. And you divided, you're conquered. So I think we should start this from the community level. If you look at your community at Wisconsin, at Indiana, and you look at my community in New York, there's still divisions there. Africans are not seeing eye to eye. They're not coming together and collaborate and have faith in themselves. But we are having faith in others. You have an African business, it's not supported, but you go to Chinese next door. Instead, you rather put money into that business than your own personal, your own African. Why? Oh, we don't want them to be better than us. When Jewish people come together, they do something. When one Jew is rich, everybody is rich. That's why they come together and support. When they go somewhere, they look for their own Jewish people around that area and bring them to the business. Because one Jew is rich, everybody become rich. So we don't have that mechanism in our community as Africans. We need to become blind-eyed about who is from Sierra Leone, who is from Gambia, who is from Senegal. We need to look at Africa as a continent, but as one, in order to really make, a headway. And unless we are able to do that and have good leadership and be proud of our culture, we cannot be empowered. Look at the beauty of African culture, starting from the food, the dress, the norms, how we even respect our elders, how we even, kind of humble ourselves when we are greeting people, how we care about somebody's feelings and all of that. So you put that culture together, I'm telling you, that's a decent life to live. But right now that culture is fading away. The West is coming with all kind of culture, dropping your pants behind your back, your buttocks, crazy haircut, tattoos, women are not covering their top part, gay marriages, and all of that. Things that are on Africans are happening now in our continent. And we are okay with that. Our leadership is okay with that. Our parents are okay with that. So African Liberation Day should be about this kind of discussion. We see how far we came, where we were, how we can get our future better. So that is the message that I have for our populace out there. It's good to call yourself Pan-African, just to make the limelight and speak beautiful words. But come on, what would that take you? It's the practical part of it, and it cannot be done alone. We have to come together as humans, as Africans, and see one another as brothers keeper and sisters keeper to keep the dream of Kwame Nkrumah, Patrice Lumumba, Tomo Sankara, all those leaders who has exemplified African unity and the prosperity of Africa. I'm telling you, those people did put their work, but we gotta take it from there. So Sam, this will be more of exploring this discussion of what we know about African issues and how to get it resolved for our viewers. Definitely, I'll give you the opportunity to come because I don't have much question in this sector, but to talk, because this is an area that I'm deeply passionate about as a student of history and a student of community engagement. I think this is an area that is, interest to me, and I will let you come in and I can come back again. Thank you, Sam.
Absolutely, and thank you, Mr. Sawani. I look at African liberation beyond that scope of what I can see in one country. This is Africa. Just like you quoted Bob Marley, and I will say another thing from Bob Marley. What Africans really should do when we were colonized and we got our independence when we get our independence from our colonial powers, from the Europeans and the French and all, some from the Portuguese. It was very important, and it's very important for our leaders from that point coming down to now to continue to work together to see that Africa is united, or to see that there are some great benefits that Africans can benefit from, because our colonial powers, even though it gave us independence, they also looked at us as people that are ignorant, because they come back to our communities and take our resources from us. They fool us. They know that we have a lot of natural resources, that they come and fool us and take our resources and give us things. When we should have said, wait a minute, this is our property. It's mine. It's 100% African, or 100% from that country, any specific country, and say, this is ours. If you want it, we're going to sell it to you, our price. We're going to negotiate a deal. And also, outside of that negotiation, African leaders should think of, all right, how can we take this to the next level? How can we manage this 100%? How can we make this profitable for Africa so we can develop Africa? Because the Western world have already developed their countries. We leave Africa, we come to Europe and the US, and we see what is in here. We've all seen what's in the US and in Europe. So why didn't African leaders get to that level? Like I mentioned earlier, corruption is one of the things, and it's selfish, being selfish. They want things for themselves, not for their country. And like Bob Marley once said, for us to really change that mindset, But Marley once said in his song, I think it's called song called Redemption Song. In that song, he said, "Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds."
Mhm.
So we, the Africans, should be the ones that free our minds from that mental slavery and be able to take control of our own vision and our own country and our own people and start from the top. A leader from every country or leaders from every country. I mean, we have ECOWAS, African leaders come together. But I think the process has been, they may be working on things. And I once heard that ECOWAS ID card is coming out, they got that out. So anybody with ECOWAS ID can travel from country to country without acquiring visa, which is good, which is great. I think they're just slow in the process. Yes, think about Gambia. We are 58 years old now as a country. And I always say we are 58 years behind time because there should have been a lot of things that should have been done a long time ago that are not done up to now. You go to Gambia, you still have a lot of places doing, even in government offices, doing business on pen and paper. We could not just take this to the next level. Some is ignorance. The other part is not ignorance, it's deliberate. Because anytime somebody wants to bring something, anytime you present a good idea, they say it's not going to work. You know why? The ones that say it's not going to work are the ones that are stealing. Because if you bring that idea, it's going to take away their ability to steal and put money in their pockets. That's why they say it's not going to work. So there's a lot of things in there. There's a lot of things that we have all the resources. Even Gambia being one of the smallest countries in Africa, Gambia can really, we are a sovereign country. We shouldn't be dependent on anybody. We should, from independence up to now, if Gambia has not mismanaged their funds, today Gambia would have been like another Gold Coast. That Gambia would have been a place that African countries will be always coming down for vacation. African countries will be looking at Gambia as a perfect example. A very small country. We have the resources. We collect enough tax. We could do stuff on our own without even taking loans. But our funds are going into the wrong pockets. They are going in the wrong pockets. And if you think about Africa in general too, like sometimes some of the problem is, like one speaker once said, I don't even know his name. I just came across that video one time. He said, part of Africa's problems is the leaders that we have no clue. And the people, or those who have clue, we have no powers. So we have people with powers that have no clue or very little clue. And people that have the clue and the experience and the knowledge have no power. So if you think about it that way, this is part of the problem we are behind. We have leaders in there that don't know how to move to the next level. We have leaders that come to power with no knowledge. I won't say no knowledge, but not a whole lot of experience to just move the needle to the next level. And leaders come in and they get in there to enrich themselves. Look at all the presidents that we had. Look at all the African presidents that we have in Africa. Only a few of them came to power with something that they have in their own, like what they're in their own network. That, think about Jammeh when he came to power. What does he have? He doesn't even own a piece of land. He didn't even have a bicycle man. I don't know. He had a small change in his bank account. Barrow came to power. What does he have? Look at them. Look at what they own in our country now. Someone that comes to power. This is part of our problem. They come to power with nothing. Once they get into power, they don't want to give up. They want to continue to stay there and enrich themselves. And they become richer than anybody else in that country. How is that possible? That's not a good math. Anybody should know that that's not right. Their salary in their salaries and the per diem that they collect or allowances that they collect is not enough for them to be the richest people in Africa or richest people in their country. This is our problem. We all know this, but who is going to fight it? We need to change leadership as we go. This is why I push for that constitutional reform to be in place, for the new constitution, draft constitution to be in place, to limit our presidents to 2 terms. It's very, very important for our country. Limit them to 2 terms. That way, if we have a president that is there for himself, well, guess what? They're only there for 2 terms and they will be out. In fact, they may not last 2 terms. They will be there the first term, and then after first term, we have elections. People may vote them out, give their votes to somebody else. That's what we need to have in Gambia. Any president that comes in moving forward, first term, we don't see the progress that we expected, don't let them stay there. Just give your vote to somebody else. We are going to find the right person at some point. We will get somebody that will come and do a better job. That can be allowed to stay there for 2 terms. Set the example within those 2 terms, put the foundation, a good foundation in place. That will help us sustain ourselves. This is what we need in Africa. Otherwise, corruption is going to continue to kill us. And we're going to continue to borrow and borrow and borrow and borrow and borrow until we can't borrow anymore. And again, that's why I support the National Assembly to pass a debt ceiling bill. They need to put a debt ceiling in our Constitution so that presidents cannot borrow more than that limit. They get to that limit, guess what? You're on your own. You better take advantage of what you have because you're not going to be able to borrow any more money. Debt ceiling is the debt ceiling. It stays there, it stays there. You've got to utilize what you have and run the country, govern the country with what you have. Don't try to get any more money. So the National Assembly, I always urge them. I'm urging them again, put a debt ceiling on our country. Gambia is very small. It's a small country that can be easily developed if we have the right leadership with the right mindset. So putting a debt ceiling in there, they can't borrow anything more than that. They borrow, if the debt ceiling is, for example, 10 billion, if we get to 10 billion, that's it. You can't have any more. So where is the 10 billion that you borrow? Where did you put it? Where did you put it? Where did you invest that into the country? Where is all that money? We need to be able to see that. But look at what happened in our country in the last 5-6 years. Look at what happened. How much money since we have this government in place? Think about all the millions that were pumping to Gambia. COVID funds, all kinds of funds, millions and millions and millions. But we're not seeing those millions in our country. We still continue to suffer in our country. People continue to suffer. Cost of living is getting higher. People's salaries stay where they are, or very little increase. Utilities are being increased. Now we have increased the utilities now. All of these are getting harder for African people. Getting a place to rent in Gambia is becoming more expensive. That's why I say cost of living in general, everything, food, commodities, rent, utilities, everything is expensive. Gambia is paying more in credit, what they call the credit data that they use on their cell phones. Gambia is paying more than Senegal. Gambia is paying more than our neighboring countries because we don't have like leaders that can control these. That are going to put their foot down and say enough is enough. Let's take charge. Let's take charge of our country. Since we got independence, we are ruled by ourselves. Nobody's going to tell us what to do. We're going to do things our way. We're going to do things the best way for our country. And every leader needs to think ahead of that. Every political party that is looking into getting into presidency, they need to have that in their vision, that this country is for our country. It's not for you. It's not for an individual. We don't want to see any political party leader that comes into power and within a couple of years, they build mansions. They have all kinds of cars. They have all kinds of properties. They have millions and millions of dollars in funds. That's not fair to the people. While the average people can't even afford to buy medicine that a doctor prescribed for them. They can't even get it. You go to our hospitals, look at them. This is part of liberation. When you liberate, you have your independence, start running your country in the right direction, not in the wrong direction. These are all things that African leaders need to think and put into perspectives and put into, you know, follow their mission, follow the vision, have the vision for the country, and come in and try to develop the country, make people's lives better. That's why they're there. They're there. We selected or we elected officials to come and make people's lives better, make our country better, move the needle, move the country in the right direction. We shouldn't have a new president and things go south. Everything becomes very difficult for people. That is the wrong president. That's why people need to stick with that and make sure that during elections, they should not be fooled by anybody. They should be seeing things for themselves and vote the right person in. So I'll stop here for a minute.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for that beautiful thoughts. Yeah, so you really nailed it on the head. I think African Liberation Day, it will look into a lot of aspects of leadership and accountability, and bringing out our culture. Like I keep saying, if you are not proud of yourself, there is no way that people can be proud of you. They have to feel it. You feel it from inside, and then that reflects out. So culture, first, we have to be happy and be proud of who we are and celebrate that. And that will connect with others who actually observe us and judge us. Second, we have to fight for unity. Unity is the key to anything. Togetherness brings power. Together, we are strong. Divided, we are weak. So if you look at the history of colonialism and slavery, we were conquered as Africans, as a continent, because of the division the white folks bring among us. The miseducation, the religion, everything that they have imposed on us can actually cause our division. They came and robbed us, not forcefully even, but selling their agenda to us. Our leaders are not schooled enough to understand the bigger picture. That's why if you look at Kunta Kinte, all their, transatlantic slave, they didn't just come and grab us. They went through our leadership, sell ideas, giving them mirrors, telling them things and exchanging it for their strong men and women that came to the land, to the new land. It has been like that. They went with religion, Christianity, missionaries, to kind of subdue our people, while they understand what they were doing, to be ahead. So Africans were gifted with all these resources, with all this natural inheritance that we got from the Almighty. But yet, we were clueless how to make this into being. We become comfortable out of our surrounding. We never explore. We never look at what we have and find knowledge. Knowledge is something that you have to search. You cannot just sit down and discover things. You have to do research. We have languages. Africa has how many languages? We have the largest, the biggest number of languages that any continent had. Imagine that with all the languages, we can really devise a way how to make communication easier, not only depending on English language. We can centralize a language that could make communication easier, just like we can centralize documentation. We can have one African passport that any African can go to any African countries without having to look for those people's papers or visa. We can share economic ideas. We have seen that Kwame Nkrumah was trying to build Kosomo Dam to make that the West African area supply with electricity from the dam. That idea was brought to his people and other neighboring African countries. But what happened to him? By the time the idea materialized, it was overthrown. So we can't just talk. We just need people who to assist Africa and put this into practice. And it cannot be done without leadership. I totally agree with you. Our leadership is #1 problem. Our leaders are our #1 enemies because they have what it takes to make Africa great. They are the one in power. They have the tools and the mechanism if they put their heads together. But again, no one man is an island. They cannot do it alone. That's why you find level-headed people, put them in power, and those level-headed people do their homework. You cannot just be looking at present and be okay with that. You have to be planning for the future, the aftermath. So I think that's where we became really, really affected as Africans. So in the observation of African Liberation Day, we need to reflect back as a society and see how we can broaden our connections. Having this kind of engagement, talk about what we are lacking and what we need to bring that dream true. Individually, Thomas Sankara, they have tried, but it's not sufficient enough. If one country, African country fails, every African country fails. That's the mindset that we need to develop. So once we develop that mindset and we look at each other as brothers and sisters, with the tools we have, invest in education. Look at the people of Russia. Look at other countries and continents. Chinese. They didn't rely on the West. They went and studied, invest in education, explore. This world is open to everyone. And you can even study in any language. It's a matter of doing your research, coming together and finding out meaningful things to get answers to questions. Even technology. I've seen people learning other knowledge in their own languages, just to make it easier for people to understand. So we have no choice. Africa, we are at a point, especially us, the younger generation, we need to change the dynamics, the way things are. I'm telling you, otherwise we're gonna be hustling. And still Africa has abundant of resources. That's why Putin say what Africa has can feed Africa and feed the whole world. And it will never finish. We have the land, we have the weather, we have the minerals, but yet still we are coming to the West to look for what? I don't understand. I'll give you an example. One time I came here, I ran into someone in America here, and he told me, if you guys who come from Africa, if you guys all come here, and we in America all go to Africa, he said, 10 years later, you're gonna come to Africa, just like how you are coming here to go and hustle. Because you will mess up everything here, and you're gonna go back to Africa where we are, and go and hustle there. 10, 20 years from now. I said, wait a minute, what do you mean? He said, exactly what I said. It's not where you are, that's the problem. It's you guys, we Africans. So I look at that conversation and I look at Kwame Nkrumah when he said Africa is not poor, but it's the Africans that are poor. I said, this man is completely correct. It is us. We have everything given to us, but we still cannot make fortune out of it. We cannot make something out of it that's meaningful. But instead, we mess it up. So that's why we are in foreign lands today, looking for visa, get his, their papers, fighting for citizenship. And yet, we will not be able to achieve what we want. So I think, with change of leadership, with us coming together, seeing each other as brothers and sisters keeper, putting our brains together, loving one another, and be proud of our culture, we can change the dynamics. Still, the soil of Africa is rich in minerals. Cocoa, rubber, coffee, all these plants are there. And diamonds. Even oil is in Africa, some part of Africa. We just need to find a way how to get it out and make a meaningful economic this thing in it. Let's stop relying on the West. Look at Chinese. Every time we go, our road construction, we give it to Chinese. They come and hire their own people. Where does the money go? It goes to China. Look at Gambia, our fishing trawlers. The Chinese comes and collect all our fish and take it to their country. Our people are there, they barely couldn't have access to fish. Look at what's happening. And sometimes they kill all of our fish and throw them outside or take it to their pigs and stuff. The poor leadership is the cause of that. Because they don't have the vision. All they need is money now, instant gratification. We need money now. Give us 20 million, and put it in our pocket. That's what our administration, that's our leaders do. And you can use whatever. Use our river, our sea, fish, the way you want. So there is still this mental slavery or colonialism that's going on. Our leaders are still pocketed in that corner. And what they do, they take loans. You are signing contract that you don't know. By the time that loan goes up to 10, 20 years, you're probably paying twice of the amount being lended to you. But again, our leaders, they use it for their political score points. Because I want to build a road so that I can win an election. I want to build a bridge. But how? If you don't have that money, you're gonna take it from somebody. And there are obligations linked to that. Because if you don't pay, something has to be be traded off. Maybe they're gonna seize your land, maybe they're gonna seize your airport, maybe they're gonna do something. But this is how the Chinese people are expanding around the world. Because what they did their homework, they have the money, they have the education, they have the tools, and they are giving our people in an easy way. But instead, we are getting hooked to something that will eventually catch up to us economically. So that's why we cannot get out of debt. And we should be tired of begging. Somebody who begs don't have respect. If we have a leaders going abroad begging the West, oh, we are a poor country, we are a poor continent, we need this, we need that. that person who is you are begging will not respect you. And that's why when we travel to the West, they ask us, in Africa, do you sleep in the streets? Because the media is portraying us as some kind of people who are out of touch, who are so poor that we cannot even make a basic living, or we sleep places that we are not suited for. But we portray ourselves like that, our leaders. They come to the West, they started begging for everything. And guess what? The money that they beg for goes into their pocket. They don't even spend that on their people. So we have a big mess. In order to solve this, I think discussion like this, African Liberation Day, when it comes, we need to re-educate our people about the importance of Africa's culture, our leadership, how we need to tweak our leadership around, select the right people and hold them accountable. If they don't deliver, let's flush them out like a toilet paper. Let's flush them out. And we all as a citizen take the responsibility to be an ambassador for our country and our continent. I think when we do that, and let's educate ourselves. Let's put money in education, in technology, in things that can make us independent, self-independent, financially independent. Let's explore business opportunities. Let's not be comfortable with just working for someone. And let's think outside the box. Be a brother's keeper. Support one another's business. Instead of supporting a Chinese man's business next door or a European man's business next door, let's support our own. And with this, I think practically we'll make a headway. If we keep doing this every day, each and every one sensitizing each other, trust me, Africa is gifted. It will never be taken away. No matter how much the white folks comes to steal from us, in all possible way, we have so much given to us that it will never be depleted. Let's go back to agriculture. Let's eat what we grow and let's grow what we eat. So I'm gonna stop here, Sam, we can wrap it up, but each and every one of us really has the mindset and the brain to really dig into ourselves and look at our continent. Having traveled even give you so much knowledge as how people are doing things elsewhere, especially those of us who have traveled to the West. And we can replicate that in our own continent. But again, we have to see each other. Let's not see Senegalese people as different. Let's not see a Fula man or a Jola man or a Mandinka man as any difference. Let's eliminate this tribal bigotry, this regional bigotry, and let's concentrate on looking at ourselves as one. Only oneness will make us get to where we want to be. Sam, your final words.
Yeah, it's definitely about time to wrap this up here. Thank you, Mr. Sawani, for sure. You know, it all comes down to what I was just saying. Yeah, leadership is why Africa is where we are today. We just don't have the right leadership. And I'm going to focus on Gambia because even though we're talking about African liberation, but we really need to take it to heart too. That's why we're talking about our country. In our country, why are we not where we need to be? Is leadership. We don't have the right people. We've not put the right people in place. We put people in place, they come in and enrich themselves, but we continue to be voting for them and allow them to stay in power when we should have been kicking them out. You know, you bring somebody in that did not even own a bicycle or, or did not even own a car that's worth $5,000, and you bring them in and they're now rich. They're richer than the whole country. Well, within 5 years. Get them out. Don't let them stay there. And people need to understand that you should not allow people to buy your vote to be able to manipulate anything in terms of election to stay in power, because they are there to enrich themselves and the people that surround them as well. Because there's a lot of things that are wrong in our country that need to be fixed, and we need to change our leadership to be able to get those changes done. We cannot continue to operate the same way and expect a different result. That's not going to happen. So, and we don't have the right people. You know, a simple thing as look at our airport. Look at just the airport. Secure tax or whatever they put in there. You cannot in any country. I mean, you cannot put a levy in a country without going through the National Assembly. But our country did. They put a levy on people paying taxes that are already included in their airline fees or in their airline tickets. But we're paying taxes and we're paying it to somebody. And what changes have we seen at the airport? The saddest thing is when that contract was signed, I heard, I may be wrong, but from what I heard, if it's correct, they said it was signed for 15 years. Boy, that's very sad. That really makes me sad, very sad. 15 years for a very stupid contract. Why would you sign 15 years for something you don't know how it's going to end up? At least if you're smart, if we had the right people in place, they would have negotiated and say, all right, how about we try 2 years? 2 years. If it works, we can extend to another 2 years or 4 years or make it 5 years. If it doesn't work, then you have the power to terminate it. But don't lock yourself into a very stupid contract that's going to rip your own people off. You know, Gambian people are going into their own country and have to pay a tax to get into their country. This is part of the reason tourists decide to go somewhere else. Tourists are not coming to our country because you know what? They can go to all the beautiful countries in Africa that are even richer than Gambia, a lot beautiful than Gambia, and pay nothing to get in there. So why would they come and pay $20, 20 pounds, and 20 euro to get into your country? For what? And where is that money going? Same thing. I mean, it's a sad situation. I wish someone can come into power and ban that and put that into the, you know, all you have to do is look into a loophole in that contract. Anything that's a breach of contract and say, boom, terminate. It's done. Let them go to court. Let's fight it. You can have your evidence. This is it. This is why I terminated the contract. It's a stupid contract. Bad for Gambia, bad for our country, bad for our people. When you're going in and out, you have to pay it. And recently, Gambians in the diaspora found out, I mean, they're not recently, but when Gambians in the diaspora found out that, you know, the exchange rate for the dollar, euro, and pound sterling is in favor of them paying in the Gambian currency. Guess what they did? They increased it to 1,200 now. I heard the announcement on the radio. They increased it to 1,200 because I personally said I was in Gambia 2 months ago. You know, I said that now I'm going to pay in the less. In fact, when I was coming, first time I went this year I went to Gambia twice. First time I went to Gambia, I paid the $20 to get in. On my way out, I paid $20 to come out. Second time I went, I said, I'm not going to do that. I paid the $20 to get in, but before leaving, I made sure I kept Gambian currency. On my way out, I paid $1,000 because $20 was more than the $1,000. All right, they've changed it now. Now it's 1,200. It's what you're gonna pay to catch up with the dollar and the pound and the euro. This is a stupid contract that should not have happened in the first place. And it's there. I felt so sad that our National Assembly has not found a way to stop this contract. Challenge the executive and say, why did you have such a contract in place in the first place without coming to National Assembly? Ban it, stop it, find a way to terminate that contract. Let's go to court. It's bad for our country. I mean, and not only that, do you know where the money is going? I don't. Can any Gambian tell me where the money is? What have they put in the airport? What have they done for us that we couldn't do for ourselves? So there's a lot of things happening. This is what held us behind. People are coming to use us. We are smarter than that, but we don't have those smarter people in power. That's what we need to change. We need to change and put the right people in place so that they can say anybody that comes to them to use our resources or use our people, they can say, wait a minute, that does not make sense. No, I am not going to do this. They can tell them, you know what, I can handle this, or we can handle this ourselves. We don't need you. That's it. If it's something that sounds very promising, because most of the percentage for Gambia, if it was 75% for Gambia and only 25% for that country or for that company, you can say, all right, let's look into that, because that will generate some revenue for a country. But if you're doing that, make sure you don't sign yourself into a long-term contract. Make it very short. 2 years is the max. You cut it off there. That way you give yourself a chance to evaluate and see if it's favorable to a country. If not, at the end of 2-year contract, I'm not signing it anymore. That's it. They can crack their things and get that. Yeah, I don't want to say that word, but get out. So that's it. So, but anyway, just to wrap it up, we need to get great leaders in Africa. We need to select the right leaders in our country, in Gambia, to be able to move us forward. If not, we're going to stay where we are. Our people are going to continue to suffer. So at the end of the day, we need to get this in everyone's mind to change their mindset when it comes to election of leaders and put the right people in place so we don't continue to suffer. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. I think we definitely come to the top of the hour, and then this discussion again is very important when it comes to way forward for Africa. Every year, inshallah, African Day Parade comes. African Liberation Day comes, and we celebrate it. But let's make a meaning of it. Celebration is okay, but let's reflect. Let's have discussion around African issues, how we can work together as one Africa and exploit what we have, our God-given, gifts, and then, seek knowledge, seek unity, and seek economic freedom so that we can have a better Africa for the future of our children. So we thank our viewers for watching. And again, Sam, thank you. This was a great show, and I hope our viewers would definitely have something to definitely get from this this particular discussion. The takeaway should be, really good. My observation. Thank you. Have a good.
Yep.
Take care.